All right, so now we want to swap the testing library React module with our app test utils. Now, what I recommend for every application that's using React testing library, your test should not actually import testing library React. Instead, you should make your own module that re-exports everything from testing library React and has a render with providers type of function. So we've actually already got this. If we go to our test directory and then test utils, then right in here, we are doing something that looks a little familiar. So we've got render, we take some UI, we take some options, we pluck off the theme, we default those options to an empty object, we create a wrapper component, we render with RTL render, that's React Testing Library render, with that UI, that wrapper, and the rest of those options. So this is basically the same thing that we've already written in here, just called render. And then we re-export everything from Testing Library React and override the render method to be our own render method that provides this wrapper for all of our providers. And this is what I recommend for all of your tests. They should all be using this render method because those providers really are kind of an implementation detail of each one of your components. And so they should just have all of the same providers that they're going to have when you ship the actual app. So let's go ahead and swap things out here. I'm going to come up here and we'll swap out testing library React with let's see, is it test? Here we go, test utils. And then we don't need the render with providers anymore or the theme provider. We can just call render. And we know that that's going to basically do what render with providers was doing. And in fact, if you configure Jest properly, then you can say, hey, Jest, any of the files that I have in this source directory are going to be accessible as if they are a node module. So we don't have to do the ... / all over the place. That is total nonsense. Nobody likes to do that. So we can configure Jest by saying that our module directories includes this path to this source directory. So once you have Jest configured in that way, then you can import it as if it's a regular node module. And you don't have to worry about the ... / So if we save this now, everything is working just as well. And we can just find replace all over our app. Everything that says at testing library /React, we'll just do test /test utils. And we can import render, we can import screen, and whatever else React testing library is exporting that we need. And with this setup, we don't have to worry about the providers at all because that is all managed for us thanks to the wrapper option from the render that's being exported by our own test utils module. So in review, what you do here is you make a module that imports render from React Testing Library render. It creates its own render function, and then it re-exports everything from React Testing Library. So it can kind of be like your own version of React Testing Library. And then it overrides the export for render so that when you import render, you're actually importing this render function, which does call the React Testing Library render, but it provides a wrapper so that all of your context providers will be accessible to any component that you render with this function.